Hey there, welcome back to our channel. It is Yolanda Jackson with Live in Peace Ministries. I am here today with another great video, and today we're going to talk about the story of Noah. You will find this story in Genesis chapter 6. Okay, in the last class, we covered Cain and Abel, and we talked about how Cain killed his brother Abel and was banished from the land, but now Adam and Eve had another son named Seth. And from the generation of Seth, Seth lived 912 years, and we have all of these generations till we get to Noah, who lived a total of 950 years. So today, Genesis chapter 6 picks up the story of Noah, and it reads as such. When men began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them that they choose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. So as you can see, even from this slide here, they lived a long time. But more so, when I think about 120 years, they're just saying that my spirit would not contend with man forever. The spirit of God would not be with man forever. His days will be 120 years. That's what we get from that text. And then we hear about these sons of God. And there's been many questions and interpretations about who the sons of God are. I've heard scholars and theologians on various books and videos, things of that sort, talk about primarily three interpretations of who these sons of God are. I don't know. I'm not going to give you a definite answer. The Bible does not say exactly, but here are some of the interpretations for your research that you could do. One interpretation is that these sons of God were the descendants of Seth, who married Cain's descendants. That's one interpretation. Another is that these are angelic beings that were married to humans. However, sons of God, being an angelic type being, were even mentioned in the book of Job. So that's another reference that's used for that interpretation, as these being an angelic being. And then I believe the third interpretation deals with were these heroes of the past. So those are the three interpretations that I've heard, and you can do your own research from that. But I believe the bigger picture that we should see here is where it says that they saw the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them that they choose. And so when we look at that scripture, kind of parallels to what happened in the garden when Adam and Eve had free reign around all the trees of the garden, except for the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And God said, don't mess with that one. Don't eat fruit from that one. And so could this be similar to that? Could this be a same situation to where you can't just go and marry whoever you choose and whoever you want to? There's a way to do it God's way. I think that could be the bigger picture here. You take a read for it and see what God reveals to you. So in verse 4, it reads, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Nephilim, and what we know about them is being giants. They used a physical appearance to really oppress people that were around them. And it even is alluded that these were descendants of Anak, A-N-A-K. So here we have the Nephilims. They were here and they were on the earth during that time. But let's get to understanding how God felt about everything that was going on during this time of Noah. The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil all the time. The Lord was grieved that he made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So this is saying that God was grieved and his heart was filled with pain about what he was seeing that was happening upon the earth. Even though we are sinners saved by grace, we want to do our best to be obedient to what God says. So verse 7 says, the Lord said, I will wipe mankind, whom I created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground, and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah, look at this. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. There was a man that God said he found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah. So we get into Noah's story. We understand that Noah has three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So three sons. So Noah had a wife. Three sons had wives as well. And that is Noah's family structure. Verse 12 in chapter 6 says, God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. So then he goes in and explains how Noah is supposed to build this ark. I want you to pay attention to verse 7. It says, I'm going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. He's going to destroy the earth with the flood waters, right? Noah's going to build this ark, and he's going to make a covenant with Noah and his family. And then he goes to say, verse 19, you are to bring into the ark two of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. Two of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Verse 22, Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Noah had found favor in God's eyes. And verse 22 said he did everything God told him to do. Chapter 7. The Lord then said to Noah, go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 2 of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. Verse 4, chapter 7. 7 days from now, I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. Verse 5. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. I love the fact how this text is set up. It tells you the condition of what's happening on the earth. And it says God was grieved and his heart was broken to what he saw. He said, I'm going to destroy this earth because I'm grieved on it. But then there's Noah, who has found favor in God's eyes. And then God gives him instructions. He gives him very specific instructions on even how to build the ark. And once he understands how to build the ark, then God is telling him what to take with him into the ark. And once he understands what to take with him unto the ark, he says, I'm going to, destroy it with the flood waters, but I'm also going to make a covenant with you and your family. And then we hear that Noah did everything God commanded. And then God got specific on how many clean animals versus how many unclean animals. And that it's going to rain 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah still did what God told him to do. No matter how impossible it seemed to appear in the physical realm, Noah was obedient to what God called him to do. And now we're starting to hear these numbers throughout the text. And we're going to hear that throughout scripture. So I call these biblical numbers, holy numbers. And that is 7 we've learned about so far, and 40 we've learned about so far as well. And now let us talk about the date. Verse 6 in chapter 7, it reads, Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the flood waters came on the earth. So God told him it was going to come and what it was going to do and how long the rain was going to fall. And within 7 days, the rain came and the flood waters came up on the earth. Now, verse 11 says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month. So I looked up the Hebrew calendar, and it says on the 17th day of the second month is Iyar, I-Y-A-R. And I apologize, I'm mispronouncing that. Iyar, and that is around that May time. So we understand that it rained and flooded the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. After the 40 days and 40 nights, we learned that the water stayed there for 150 days. Then we get to chapter 8. Chapter 8, verse 1 reads, but God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark. And he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. Now the springs of the deep and the floodgates of the heavens had been closed, and the rain had stopped falling from the sky. The water receded steadily from the earth. At the end of the 150 days, the water had gone down. And on the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark came to a rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month. And on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains became visible. Okay, so we're getting some more dates here. The 17th day of now the 7th month, right? I wrote down that the 17th day of the 7th month was Tishri in Hebrew. And that's around that September-October time frame. And that's when the ark came to a rest on the mountain. Then we get to verse 6 in chapter 8. After 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the ark and sent out a raven. So it got to this mountaintop, and then after 40 days, that's when Noah opened up the ark and sent out a raven. And the raven kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the water had receded from the surface of the ground. But the dove couldn't find a place to rest its feet, so it came back to Noah. So he sent out a raven the first time after 40 days of being on that space, right? And then after that, he sent out a dove, but the dove couldn't find rest there. He waited 7 more days before he sent the dove out again. So this time, when he sent the dove out, the dove showed back up with an olive leaf in their mouth. Then Noah knew that the water had receded from the earth. But look at verse 12 in chapter 8. It said he waited 7 more days and sent the dove out again, but this time the dove did not come back. I find it very interesting that when Noah sent out the dove the first time, of course, he couldn't find a place for his feet. It came back. Noah waited 7 days before he sent the dove out again. He sent it out again, and it came back with an olive leaf. But then he waited 7 more days before he knew that the waters had receded because the dove did not come back at that point. So verse 13 in chapter 8 says, by the first day of the first month of Noah's 601st year. So now we at the first day of the first month, and Noah is 601 years old. A year later, when all of this happened, at that time, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. By the 27th day of the second month, the earth was completely dry. 27th day of the second month, right? So we're back in Iyar, I-Y-A-R, 27th day, second month. Verse 15. Then God said to Noah, come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number upon it. Have we heard that before? Yes, we have. So he's telling the creatures to go out and increase and multiply. So Noah came out together with his sons and his wives and his sons' wives, all the animals and all the creatures that moved along the ground and all the birds. Everything that moves on the earth came out of the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, never again will I curse the ground because of man, even though every inclination of his heart is evil from childhood. And never again would I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. And that is chapter 8. And now we have the point where Noah has built this altar unto the Lord, and he sacrificed. He made a sacrificial burnt offering unto the Lord, which is pleasing unto God. But then we get into chapter 9. And chapter 9 talks about God's covenant with Noah. So chapter 9, verse 1, then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. So now we're hearing the covenant that was made with Adam is now being made with Noah and his sons. Did y'all see that? Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall upon all the beasts of the earth and all the birds of the air, upon every creature that moves along the ground, upon all the fish of the sea. They are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. We can't read this too fast, because what I'm hearing is what exactly he told Adam, right? He told him to be fruitful and increase in number. And then he tell him, I'm giving you everything you need, everything. But then there's verse 4. But you must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. And for your lifeblood, I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal and from each man too. I will demand an accounting for the life of his fellow man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made man. Similar stories, if you think about it here, he's telling them to go out, be fruitful, multiply, and I'm giving you everything. We talked about that. Be fruitful, multiply, be, do, have. We talked about that. And in order to have, God is going to give you everything. However, Noah is not to eat meat from its lifeblood still in it. So he has some restrictions as well. And he says, in verse 6, whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. He says, because for in the image of God, God made man. So he is setting that precedence there. He don't want another Cain and Abel situation here. Verse 7. As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it. He said it again 2 times. Pay attention. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be cut off by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. That is verse 11 of chapter 9. Verse 12. And God said, this is the sign of the covenant I am making between me and you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth. So the sign that God sent of the covenant that he made was a rainbow, that he would never flood the earth again. but Noah and his sons had instructions. And then the next following verses in chapter 9 talk about the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? And so we learn here there was a situation, and I'm going to read it a little bit here. It starts in verse 20. When Noah, a man of the soil, proceeded to plant a vineyard, when he drank some of its wine, he became drunk and lay uncovered inside the tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment and they laid the garment on him, but they didn't lay that garment on him face forward. They actually walked backwards, laid it on him out of respect, and walked out, so they did not see their father in that naked position. And because of that, let's see what happens. In verse 24, when Noah awoke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers." Now, Canaan is the son of Ham. Canaan is the son of Ham. So Noah actually cursed Canaan. But look at verse 26. He also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend the territory of Japheth, and may Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be his slave." After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. Altogether, Noah lived 950 years, and then he died. And then in chapter 10, we learn about the nations that were birthed from Noah's sons. And it breaks down all of their sons of Japheth. It breaks down the sons of Ham, and that's where we find Ham had Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Those were the four initial sons of Ham. Now, one thing about Cush that I found here in verse 8 of chapter 10, it says Cush was the father of Nimrod, who grew to be a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. In verse 11, it says, from that land, he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Rehoboth, Ir, Kalalah, and Resen, which is between Nineveh and Kalalah, that is the great city. So Nimrod was a very interesting warrior that came from Cush. But then it talks about Mizraim's family, who is also Ham's son. But then we learn about Canaan's descendants. If you read the Bible, then you've heard some of these names from the enemies of the Israelites, right? Here are Canaan's descendants. I'm going to read some of these for you. Sidon was his firstborn, and of that, and of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Archites, Sinites, and some Moabites. Let me just stop right there. But we have heard many of these names as being those who oppressed the Israelites, those who were enemies to the Israelites. Very interesting. Later, the Canaanite clans scattered, and the borders of Canaan reached from Sidon toward Gerar as far as Gaza, and then towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Adamah, Zeboim, as far as Lasha. Y'all, give me some grace with these names, okay? But I just want to tell y'all that many of those names we've definitely heard of, right? And then, so that ends chapter 10, and it just kind of lays out all of the families and where we go from there with the family. Now, we know that is the story of Noah. Next up, we're going to learn about Abram, who turns out to be Abraham. And that is going to be really interesting and carry us through the rest of the book of Genesis. But what I have prepared for you in advance is a quiz. I have a 25-question multiple choice quiz that I would like you to take. Let me know, how much do you know about the book of Genesis? And you will find this quiz in the notes to this video. So be sure to take the quiz, and I'll see you in our next video.